let's talk
All
about
right, hold
let's
on.
oh sorry.
I'm
Sorry.
I'm I'm hijacking. I'm stealing the driver wheel
Let's go.
because
Let's go with it.
I believe in these segues.
Let's go with it. Let's go with it. Ooh.
So now this is how you segue out of MMA into boxing, literally.
If we were not getting copywritten, I would play Ron Brown's his name was Ron Brown's back in the day with Buster Rhymes and the conglomerate. That dun,
Mhm.
dun, 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 we getting Arab money. But bro, that was
Oh,
kind of
that
like
era. That was a
that
wild time.
was a horrible era. Very racist, by the way, because they were not saying anything in Arabic. Like me, I mean, Nicky, like yeah. Anyway, before I digress, you remember he was just making up words. There was not no Arabic word in there. But respect to my Arabic brothers and sisters. Malhaba, Abibi. Anyways, boom. Turkey and Dana White, palm, grease, money exchange, big bank takes every bank. One league, no confusion, champion number one. I said a lot right there. But I'm saying that to say, hey, no confusion. Let's negate all the belts. Let everybody step into this arena and let's get ranked on who is the best. And let's get the best fights that we can get from the best fighters. And let the cream rise to the top. Fellas, let's
Mm.
add to this. I said a lot. I said a lot.
Mm.
One thing interesting about this, they're talking about bringing, they're shrinking the divisions. So you'd have 175, and then your next division would be 160. Going back to your traditional divisions, I did find that very interesting. Dana White being in boxing, it is also interesting. And in boxing, interesting brings eyeballs because the first event, we will be locked in and tuned into the matchups, and the intrigue it will be extremely high considering that there'll be one belt per division, which
Mhm.
brings the stakes up, which means that maybe we get people that aren't ducking each other to fight, and we actually
Mhm.
can truly see who's great. And I
Mhm.
always say this in boxing and combat sports, we just want to see who's great. There's no shame in taking losses. Just because you lost doesn't mean you can't come back. What we don't like to see is when guys take losses and then they make every excuse in the book and they don't take it on the chin. You're professional fighters. We want to see you be great. We want to see the best fights. We want to be entertained. We want to be able to talk about the sport. And if you lose or not, these are things that people will talk about for ages because when X fighter fought B fighter and it was amazing and there was tactical skill and will and back and forth, and that's what the sport is all about. So for me, that's what I'm really hoping that we get back to with Dana White getting in boxing. So
So
super interested though.
so it's a wider. You don't have to hit the weight exactly. You fit in the window.
Is that what it is, or
I don't know.
so I was assuming, let's say you got your 160 guys, you can be anywhere from 155, your weight limit is 160. I think most guys will take it right up to that limit, but
Right.
some fighters may not feel comfortable doing that. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
We'll see the strategy there for guys getting, but this will be new, so you may have some slip ups from some guys because they were fighting at 160, but they came in weighing 158 or 157.
Hmm.
Rehydration and things like that. I don't know if that was addressed in the announcing the league, but Dana White part of proven to put on great fights, the matches that we want to see, and just willing to just throw the cash at the problem, which is definitely needed in boxing. We want to see the great fights consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna say that the Grand Prix is very likely to feed into this league. Are you familiar with what I'm referring to when I'm talking
Yeah.
about the Grand Prix?
Well, now go ahead and explain it to us.
So Riyadh season is having a boxing Grand Prix. Uh, it's actually called the WBC Grand Prix Riyadh season. It says the tournament aims to discover the next generation of boxing stars. It will be divided into 5 events with 128 boxers battling for glory.
Mm-hmm.
The Grand Prix starts with quarterfinals featuring 8-round fights. The finals will be scheduled to 10 rounds. So the eligibility for the Grand Prix is they can't be more than 26 years old. They can't have more than 15 professional fights. And it's going to be in the featherweight, super lightweight, middleweight, and heavyweight divisions.
Wow. And 128 fighters over those divisions.
Correct.
Wow.
This is
So
like
tournament style.
mm-hmm. Mortal Kombat.
And you know, in the early days of the PBC, we seen something similar. You know,
Yep.
we've seen similar formats.
Yeah.
I'm all for it, man. Unification and like the direction we're going with the fights, and are developing new stars and the entertainment factor for these sudden death. Like you lose this fight, you're out of the running, and you get a great fighter that just so happened to meet a style that just didn't work for him that night. The drama that could be within there.
Yeah, and I would say this. I would say I like the idea. I like the idea of this whole thing being a straightforward approach where it eliminates the confusion of having multiple titles. It's the best fighting the best. I like that idea. And I like the idea of, people not ducking people, right? And setting, the right hierarchy of talent. The cream rises to the top. The only problem I'm worried about is the monopoly of it, where one person has so much power that if negotiation, whatever you get blackballed, you're out of the whole. You can't really negotiate your stay. UFC does that. They did it to Francis Ngannou. Like Francis Ngannou is doing okay because of PFL. He had that leverage of negotiating as a free agent because he had built this value in the UFC. If you take away the WBC, you still have the IBF. You still have so many. If you take away top ranking, you still have Golden Boy. There's negotiation there that you could leverage on who you, and it brings a form of um power to the boxer or the boxer and their team, right? But if it's a one league, one head board, board of governance type of thing, if you're not in cahoots with them, if negotiation times comes and you're asking for too much, and they tell you, bro, you only, we controlled your pay-per-view, we controlled your gate numbers, we did this, we did that. The return on investment was not this. I mean, yes, it makes sense. Business is business, and they'll always take the business route, and they'll pay the high earner who brings in seats. But it's hard on negotiation, or if you've said something, some people are rough around the edges, and sometimes Dana White may not f with you for lack of a better word, and then that means you're out of this league. I mean, I don't know. It's scary. It's scary to have a monopoly because you don't have negotiation leverage as a fighter. But hey, I understand we need to have a fight. We need to have a fighting constituents where a fighting comes together,
Constituency.
constituency where the best fight the best. But again, let's not make our fighters chattel where they're
Uh,
paid higher
to
on in one one organization.
But one thing to think that this league doesn't disband all the other promotion companies and fights that will be made outside of this league. The leagues are setting their this league is setting their parameter on how their belts will be distributed, and the partnership with Turkey, you can expect him to lure big names into this league to compete for those belts. Turkey, the influence of Turkey is very important because he is someone that is a fan of boxing. He came up watching boxing in one belt eras. So
Hmm.
he's like, I want to recreate this. I got the money. I got the partnership with an American who bridges that gap across the pond, and now we got something
I mean, I could see, you
happening.
know, I went out on the limb and said the Grand Prix can feed into it, but also I could see people that hit gatekeeper status,
Yes,
people that consistently
yes.
knock on the door but can't get through. I can see them coming over and being the ones that give it a jump start.
Absolutely.
Um,
You're absolutely right. Those
Yeah,
guys who are in that
Derevchenko,
in that range of top
Caleb
six,
Plant.
top six, and that could never break it to the five, and but still in the top 10 can still make a good earning in that league because they're able bodies to fill out those numbers as you're creating this league table while you're tallying up points. You still need that guy to get to, like when you fighting a Street Fighter or sorry or Mortal Kombat, before you get to Shao Kahn, whatever his name was, you had to go through some people, and they held weight too, and you needed.
yeah,
So I'm just so
right.
Mortal Kombat ref.
Um, another
Yeah,
scenario, another scenario, and it could be a combination of all these things is when you look at a big three, right? And some people that are on their last hurrah. I mean, maybe Tyson Fury comes out of retirement and
Entertains it.
goes into this league. Um, well,
I can see it.
I
I
think the
can see
good thing about this league, though, another thing I've been writing some notes here on my phone. I think this league will make two things happen. It'll make a lot more fights happen, a lot more fights, because fights. Look at this period of time. We're not getting the fights we want, or the fights that are happening. And how many? If we look at a fight calendar, how many big fights do we have a year? Maybe three or four, right? This league will make at least big fights within the calendar year rise up to about maybe 12. That's a healthy, once a month you'll have a big fight. At least once a month. It'll increase fighter activity because they're getting paid. Fighters, the reason why they don't fight is because they're not getting paid. They don't, the negotiation falls, stuff happens, people get injured. But if you could get it to 12 big fights a year, that's dope. Every month you expect a big fight.
do. That's what the NFL does
Yeah.
to become so popular. But do we have any guarantee that we will get these big names in a league? No. If you're starting a new league, there's growth and development of the product.
It- you're right.
Coming
You're
to the
right. But
boxing space that's been very narrow as far as how it's been. So this is outside the box, and boxing tends to reject those things.
outside the box.
You have Turkey, you have Dana White involved, so there's going to be some transition period. What I'm saying is I don't think there's a guarantee that we get the biggest fighters off the jump
Yeah.
unless they're throwing them
Yeah.
ridiculous
Yeah. I
money
mean,
to attract the viewership. That's all
you
I'm
you
saying.
you're right. It won't be the biggest fight, but it's the thing. The idea I'm saying here is the model. The model they're doing is not going
Correct.
to be new. If you talk about Dana White, it's there. It's hidden in plain sight. The model is the UFC, and it's making the right fights happen. The reason why I was talking about disgruntled fighters or ex fighters going to the PFL or going to One FC or going to Bellator. We've seen it with Dana White. He made a monopoly with the UFC where he was so big as an executive. If he felt it was not about the fighter's talent, if he felt like, bro, you asking for this amount of money, and it's a business thing. But I do agree with you. It won't happen first year of it being implemented, but I'm assuming as everything gets to rolling, and that the investment starts to, cash is injected into like year two of the investment. Other fighters start to sign contracts. I know fighters may be one leg in, one leg out. Give them part-time contracts so they can still, fulfill their duties to another organization or whatever. But one leg in, one leg out. Hey, I need you to get this thing going. At least give it give it like wheels to move on. And I bet you in the future, what Turkey's trying to do, he's trying to make an all year action packed, self-serving. You don't have to sit down and negotiate from agent to agent to make these fights happen. They're going to happen immediately, and there's going to be a fight maker, like or a person who makes these fights, like Dana White. He sits down and says, "Hey, you're number one, you're number two. You're going to fight for the opportunity to fight the champ, right?" Isn't that what Dana does? It's kind of like we don't have to go through the negotiation. It's already preset. You sign this contract to be in this league, you're gonna get this amount of salary, whatever. I don't know.
We make and we're making a lot of assumptions
Assumptions.
just based off of an announcement. Um, I could see a scenario where the existing governing bodies, this is one thing that could unite the existing governing bodies.
You know the
And they say that, they may say that we've wanted our own money all this time, but in order for us to survive, we must come together as the traditionals in order to survive. And this might be the divorce. This could potentially lead to the divorce of Turkey and boxing.
the good thing about shows like
Oh
this.
wow.
The good thing about shows like this, big wigs will be watching shows like this and saying, "Damn, one of those guys in this show just has they just called our project," and that's it's good for us to make assumptions because one of us in this we're just talking, we're just shooting from the hip, but one of us may be on point, and they're like, "Damn, he's talking about our business model right now," or and that's the same thing.
Mhm.
Like weeks ago, we talked about Turkey and Dana White meeting, but we didn't know that this was happening, right? What if somebody from their team was like, "Yo, there's this little or this show that talked about Dana White and Turkey meeting when we were going through our whole thing is why is Dana White being seen with Turkey?" And boom, this manifests. So surprised if any of our wild takes is the actual model. And you if viewership, you heard it first somewhere, and it better be here.
All right, man.